Hello and welcome to Nirmal Bang, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Neeral Nadia. We have with us Nihar Cheda, Assistant VP Corporate Strategy at Prince Pipes, joining in. Welcome to the show, Nihar, and good to have you on the show. In spite of all the odds, the kind of concerns that we have been looking at, that COVID-19 has placed in front of us and across economies, still if you see the fourth quarter results for Prince Pipes, that has been pretty encouraging. However, if you could just help us understand how much has been the impact of the lockdown in terms of business.
Sure. So on FY20, I think if you look at an 11-month period from April to Feb, we were on course to deliver a 13% volume growth and a 11% value growth, which is pretty healthy considering even what the economic environment in FY20 was. Of course, due to the lockdown in March, we lost out on around 100 crores of net sales. Despite which, I think if you look at FY20 as a whole, we have been able to deliver a pretty healthy EBITDA margin of 14% at around 230 crores. And we have also met our guidances as far as net profit of around 113 crores. So despite the lockdown, I think FY20 performance was pretty sort of healthy on the top and bottom line as well.
Right.
Yeah. As far as post-COVID, impact on business, to answer the next question, I think it's really a two-pronged strategy for us. The first being in terms of application. So today we not only sell plumbing pipes and drainage pipes, but we also have 30% of the business coming from agriculture and borewell segment, which, crops being an essential good, the entire value chain becomes essential. So we saw very sort of robust sales for the agriculture part of the portfolio in May and June. So I think amongst all the building material segment, I think the piping segment, it's Prince and our peers who are, have this good strategy of not only being exposed to plumbing, but also agriculture. So that's as far as application is concerned. I think as far as geography is concerned, we have a very strong distribution network, not only across urban India, but also across rural and semi-urban India, where a majority of our sales actually comes from these tier 2, tier 3 towns, as well as, rural sort of villages, which of course have emerged better out of COVID and have had that sort of better recovery. So we've also seen some encouraging green shoots of demand from the housing segment in Q1 as well.
Right. So, that's an interesting take on the first quarter. And when I see the numbers as well, Jan and Feb, yes, we've seen good growth that did come in terms of the sales, in absolute terms, as well as if you see in terms of the revenue side. March, yes, we did see a degrowth of almost 50% that did come in on the sales front due to COVID. And that was only actually an impact worth 10 days. Now, if you could just help me understand, if you have to look at the first quarter of FY21, how much or how bad do you think could that impact be in terms of revenue loss?
Sure, I can give you a directional thought process. In terms of April, largely was a washout. I think across not only sector, but across the global economy.
Absolutely.
So in the last 5 days of April, we did start getting our permissions to start dispatching. And we were sitting on high amounts of inventory due to the lockdown mid-March, as a result of which we were able to really effectively penetrate the market despite having no production. Our high level of inventory actually helped us really make some incremental market share gains. I think in terms of May and June, we had a sort of pretty strong 70-75% recovery in May, and it was only better than that in June. This was, of course, largely driven by the agriculture sector, which is a seasonal product. So it's typically Q4 and Q1 of the fiscal is when agriculture demand is strong. So that really helped us. And like I said, we have this strategy of winning in many Indias, where we not only focus on our network in urban metros like Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, but we also have a very strong distribution network across semi-urban and rural India, where we have seen, sort of encouraging demand, not only in the agriculture part of the portfolio, but the housing segment as well. I think demand has emerged in these parts of the country, and I think our strategy of winning in many Indias is more important now than it ever has been in the post-COVID era.
Right. So with this, Nihar, if you could just help me understand now, especially for Prince pipes, we are looking at substitution demand that could be coming in with regards to metal pipes. You mentioned about, irrigation. That is one of the avenues. Real estate is another one, and the government initiatives. Now, if you have to take these four growth drivers right now, irrigation, yes, has been good. In fact, all the companies who have a good amount of exposure with regards to rural India have done fabulous in terms of the pent up demand that has come in once the economies have started to open up. But if you have to talk about the substitution demand, how is that panning out, especially if you have to see the retail side of business? And secondly, the other concerning areas with regards to real estate, because sales are down, labor is a major concern for real estate as well right now. So, do you think irrigation and government initiatives, as the two prongs of the four prong that we look at, will be able to negate the negative impact of the substitution demand as well as real estate?
Sure. I think those are some good points as far as I think irrigation is going to be the driver going forward. I think government, spending on infrastructure, on affordable housing, I think we need to give it some more time before we get clarity on what the government's priorities are going to be as far as government expenditure is concerned. But I think on your biggest point of, the replacement, the retrofitting market, how is that going to pan out? And this holds very true, especially for Prince Pipes, since we've always been a more B2C brand with a larger focus on retail as opposed to new projects. So we've always stayed true to our distribution network and retail. So that's obviously going to be very key for us moving forward. I think to understand this, it's very important to understand what the past sort of 2 or 3 years have looked like. I think real estate has not been doing pretty well even in the pre-COVID era. I think, if you look at real estate or even the building material segment as a whole, it's not been a very pretty picture. Despite which, I think it has been the piping industry amongst the entire building material sector, Prince and our peers who've been able to post that sort of year-on-year, robust value growth. And the reason for that is maybe the market is not really getting that much bigger, but there is a very strong market consolidation that's happening within the piping segment, where the big are getting bigger. So one, there's a shift from the unorganized to the organized segment. And even within the organized, I think it's becoming a sort of big boys game where a lot of the regional manufacturers, even at the organized level, and a lot of the medium national players as well, are going through some major sort of balance sheet constraints and working capital issues, as a result of which there is major market share gains to be made. And I think post-COVID, to make it relevant, this story of market consolidation is only going to accelerate from here, because the type of cash flow hit that these unorganized players and smaller organized players have taken, the kind of inventory losses owing to volatile raw material prices, it's going to be even tougher for these smaller players to survive. So I think market consolidation is going to be a driver of growth as far as the retrofitting market is concerned. And just one last point on that is, as far as replacement demand is concerned, today there's a lot of, sort of building material products that end consumer could defer their purchase on. I could, paint my house maybe after 6 months or replace my tiles after 6 months. But your replacement demand for pipes is one that's non-discretionary. If your pipe is leaking, you have to replace it. So it's a very non-discretionary sort of spend. So I think we are, while we are cautiously optimistic, I think the second half of this year will be a lot clearer as far as demand guidances are concerned.
Right. So are you expecting any market share gains in this year, or do you think it's best not to expect too much?
So to be honest with you, yes, I am expecting market share gains, but the tone is very cautiously optimistic because of the uncertainties in the macros. We feel like it's a good time to actually pull away from the rest of the market. I think with the IPO just happening, in the past fiscal, our capex cycle is going to continue as normal. We are very bullish that there is going to be a vacuum in the market. And a lot of the companies who are doing capex from internal accruals might cut down on their capex budgets. And we feel like it's a good time to add on that incremental capacity to expand our footprint, not only in terms of distribution, but also manufacturing. So in the medium to long term, I think we are bullish. In the short term, we would be cautiously optimistic.
So, as you mentioned about CAPEX, Nihar, are we saying that the seventh plant, which is expected to be coming up in Telangana, is pretty much on track?
So see, for any greenfield project, it would take 12 to 15 months of time. Apart from the natural delay due to COVID of 3 or 4 months, I think we would broadly be on track. So maybe Q2 or Q3 of the next fiscal is when we could commence production at the Telangana facility as well, which is of course an integrated pipe and fitting facility.
Right. And currently, pre-COVID, or maybe I could say since the time the lockdown started, what have the capacity utilization levels dropped to? What was the lowest that we saw? And how far has it improved now?
So like I said, Q1 is usually a good quarter of business for the entire piping industry owing to agriculture demand. So it really depends on geography to geography in terms of how capacity utilization has been. But we have, reached 85-90% of pre-COVID utilization levels post-COVID. Of course, agriculture, like I keep repeating myself, is a seasonal item. So I think post the monsoons hitting the rest of the country, I think will be the true test of how we are able to revive these hostile conditions.
Right. So this is the capacity utilization that we're talking on a blended basis, right?
Yeah.
Right. And with regards to where new verticals of business are concerned, especially if we talk about storage tanks, what's the update on that front? What's the kind of revenue we are anticipating in year one? And what's the kind of growth that we're expecting in that segment?
Sure. So, why we've always been a pure play pipe and fitting company. And we are the only ones amongst, if you look at the top 4 or 5 guys, I think everyone has done product portfolio expansions. So we felt that storage tanks is the right way to go ahead. We want to be very conservative with any product portfolio expansions because I think the entire building material fraternity is sort of plagued with examples of companies who have over diversified their product portfolio and then don't have enough management bandwidth to really have a new distribution model and a new vertical. So we've stuck to 2 things we know well: plastics and building materials. I think tanks hits that sweet spot where we don't have to build a whole new distribution network. It's going to be the same Prince distributor, retailer, plumber who's going to sell this product. So I don't have to spend any time or mind share into developing a whole new model. I can leverage my current model to get this product running. As far as scaling up, we have just started production last month in my Silvassa plant. We have done test marketing in the Gujarat market, and we have received sort of very encouraging, almost I can say exciting feedback as far as quality and range is concerned. We want to stay very true to quality. I think quality is something that's very important to us. We don't want to put immediate sort of volume pressures on the product and then have to compromise on quality or price or anything like that. I think this approach of focusing on a strong distribution network, pan-India, with a quality product has worked well for us in pipes. And in tanks, it's a very voluminous product. So that is why 30% of the market is organized, 70% is unorganized. And we have the right manufacturing network of 6 plants across the country where we're able to minimize freight costs and penetrate local markets very effectively. And we do see a major vacuum in the tanks business because obviously the market leader in tanks is going through supply constraints.
Right.
So we do see that we are the right fit to come with our manufacturing and network to really be able to fill that vacuum. I think as far as volume guidances are concerned, it's a very long-term play. we are looking at long-term value creation. If we work on, quarter-on-quarter pressures of volume, we won't be able to create long-term value.
Correct.
So I think that will contribute to a good amount of my top line 2 to 3 years from now.
Right. And with this, another thing that we notice on the financial numbers, Nihar, is that yes, we did see a crunch that did come in on the top line of business on the back of COVID. However, it probably it's the better product mix or something which has actually supported our margins as well in FY20. Do you think this is something which is going to be sustainable in FY21 as well?
Yeah, so see, there has been multiple reasons for the kind of margin expansion of more than 200 basis points that we saw in FY20 as opposed to FY19. I think the largest reason for that was pricing leverage. I think the market consolidation that I'm talking about not only leads to market share gains, but as the big get bigger, you're able to sort of sell at your own terms and you have a better pricing leverage. And we've really seen that pricing leverage kick in, where we are not only able to sell and gain market share, but we are able to do it at our own terms, at our own price. So definitely pricing leverage across categories has helped us improve our margins. Of course, we did have an increase in share of value-added products from around 19% to 23% in this year, in FY20. Which of course the aim will be to sort of sustain that sort of contribution to the top line in the current fiscal as well. And I think we've also, started working on very strong charters to reduce our, production costs and to have very strong cost control as far as production efficiencies are concerned. And of course, operating leverage benefits also help with the kind of growth that we've had. So it's not, while value-added products have helped us with this margin expansion, it's really been pricing leverage, better contribution from higher margin products, cost control as far as production efficiencies are concerned, and operating leverage. So it's been a very sustainable margin expansion due to multiple reasons.
Right. And with this, overall, if you see in terms of the geographical spread as well, especially in terms of sales, north and southwest, these three are the major regions which contribute almost majority of the sales. Yes, east has increased in the last 5 years, but are you seeing a major shift happening in the geographical sales trend in the next 3 to 5 years?
Sure, that's a good question. I think again, your sales contribution is linked to where you have your plants. Because if you look at our cost structures, freight cost is a very important part of our cost structures. So the reason why North is such a big part of our portfolio today is because Prince Pipes was the first mover amongst the entire organized segment in 2008 to put up a plant in Haridwar and to be able to penetrate that northern market and having a very strong first mover advantage. As far as the next 3 to 5 years are concerned, I don't see any major shifts which would be, alarming. Having said that, the next frontier of growth for us is going to be East India. I think it used to be around 5-6% of net sales, 4 or 5 years ago, which now has come up, 16-18%. And we've really been, the top amongst the top 1 or 2 brands as far as market share in the East is concerned. The reason for that is I think the urbanization cycle in the East has been slower than the rest of the country. So that shift from GI to plastics is happening later. And the steel lobby also was always stronger there. So the plastic, acceptance over there has been later. And we see ourselves as the company driving this change from GI to polymers.
Right. And with this, another product I want to talk about is with regards to where Sanifit goes, Nihar. I mean, everyone, whoever had the capacity, whoever had the readiness has got into businesses which are related to COVID in some vertical or the other, from the healthcare space, from packaging companies getting into PPE suits. And we've seen even, Prince Pipes, which has got into hands-free sanitizer, which is Sanifit. Do you think that's a business which is worth expansion? Or do you think it's going to be a temporary affair?
See, I think like you said, a lot of companies have found this sort of product of the season, if I can say.
Absolutely.
I think Sanifit for us was nothing more than just, we didn't want to just spread awareness. We wanted to do our bit, as far as community welfare is concerned. So we've tried to help, hospitals, police stations, other sort of government offices by improving, the awareness and action, solid action as far as sanitizing is concerned. I think I don't see this as a new business vertical which is worth capacity expansion. I think it's very important, now more so than ever, to stick to your core business and to not be distracted by anything. I don't think this is as big as a vertical where I need to expand for. I think it'll be a CSR initiative from us, a very strong CSR initiative, but nothing more than that.
Right. And with this, Nihar, another thing that we've noticed is, especially for sectors and companies which are B2C focused, the debtor days, the credit cycle has improved fantastic. I mean, that's because of the cash payments that have started to come in from distributors, from retailers. And that is one of the positives, especially in terms of where liquidity management goes for the manufacturers. Is something like this that you have witnessed in your business as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think even pre-COVID, we had, the economic scenario and the liquidity scenario in the markets was not very strong pre-COVID as well. So with the market consolidation, not only do you make market share gains, not only do you gain pricing leverage, but you're able to sell at your own terms as far as credit is concerned. So if you look at my debtor days, in FY, 15 and 16 would be in the high 70s, which we've now brought down to, 40, 45 days. And quality of the balance sheet is something that's very important for us. I think post COVID, it's a fine line. You don't just want to keep reducing your debtor days. It's a fine line between having your right volume growth and sustainably selling. So focus is on sustaining the debtor days. I think times like these will really help us differentiate the men from the boys. And the big companies will sort of be able to eat market share of the smaller companies. So we don't want to just choke the channel as far as credit is concerned. I think it'll be a fine line where we want to sustain the current debtor days and sit on good liquidity. Quality of the balance sheet is very important, especially in such times.
Right, and that's an important factor that you're considering as well, Nihar. And very lastly, overall, if you have to look at FY21, I mean, it's a given that, see, everyone's going to be ready with regards to some kind of degrowth probably, or even a break even. And that's what everyone's expectation is across industries, across sectors. For Prince, what's the kind of growth you're looking at in terms of FY21 on the top line front? And are you and then what's the kind of bounce you are expecting in FY22?
So I know you'd love for me to give a quantitative answer in terms of what I do in 21, 22. I think I'm going to stay away from quantitative guidances given how volatile the macro scenario is. Having said that, I think our distribution network across semi-urban and rural India will help us stand out and outpace the industry. So we are very confident that whatever industry growth will be, we will be able to outpace that as a result of our strong distribution network in tier 2, tier 3 and rural India, as well as our exposure to agriculture segment, which of course is going to be the driver moving forward. So we are very confident in terms of being able to outpace industry growth. As far as guidance is on growth for 21, 22, I think it's too early to comment on that. We have seen a pretty encouraging Q1 as far as the entire portfolio is concerned.
Right. So hoping that all of this goes as planned from here on as well. And so thank you so much, Nihar, for joining us on the show. Great insights. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as well. We will come back to you in the second half of the year once again to understand how things have improved and how COVID impact has been negated from here on. But thank you so much. Stay safe.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.